Welcome to a brand new episode of TVGP's We Roguelike It. I'm your host, Boston. Joining me as always is Moonpeer.
Hello.
We're here for our fourth and final week of Mewgenics. And I totally forgot to ask Moon what game we wanted to play for the next episode. So tune in for that.
The scientists can figure that out.
Yeah, tune in that next week. They got a lot of stuff to figure out next week. We'll add one more to the plate here. Moon, how did it go in your week of Mewgenics?
I mean, not great, bro. Like, not great in the slightest. Like, I had a couple of really mediocre runs, we'll say.
Sure.
I think the run I'm on at the moment is like still in like the first zone. I fought the giant goo monsters. I fought the blind dogs with no heads.
Oh, that can be a rough fight.
Yes. I lost 3 cats before I figured out the mechanics on them, and I was like, well, this is just going to be a slow grind now.
Yeah.
And guess what? It's a slow grind.
Yeah.
Also, I didn't realize that when the cats died, you only had a certain amount of turns before their bodies exploded.
Yeah, it's a very Final Fantasy Tactics thing of like your party members turn into a crystal and you have so many turns to revive them.
So I left that run with 1 cat, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that happens.
It doesn't feel great.
No,
Like, not in the slightest. It feels like I literally just wasted my time because the only thing I got from that run was a cat.
well, and especially because if you look at a lot of other turn-based RPGs or SRPGs, especially this game, again, very clearly takes inspiration from Final Fantasy Tactics. In a lot of those games, you have spells or items that are guaranteed to revive your party members. So if you had an item like a Phoenix Down that you just wander over to your cat within 3 or 4 turns, toss it at them, and then they come back, and then you can kind of heal them over time. That would be fine, but the opportunities for reviving your cats in the middle of a battle in this game are very slim. So a cat,
you literally have like the Ankh, and that's it.
yeah, and like there's the healer does have spells to revive your cats, but again, you're rolling the dice in 3 or 4 ways of like, are they going to start with that spell? Are they going to get it when they level up? Have you leveled them up enough by the time your cat dies, maybe on turn 2 of a fight, and you're going to turn 7 or whatever? Like, battles, of course, have a maximum turn count, which is just, I get it, but it's the worst. But have you run into the turn counter, the end of the turn counter?
I have not yet.
Okay, after
No.
turn 10, it just starts hurting your cats every single turn. Because it's like,
Oh, great.
you need to go faster. And it's like, yes, if it's getting to turn 10, it's going to go to turn 25 because I'm struggling here, man. Like, stop punishing me, bro. Yeah.
Again, mean. Just mean.
Yeah. I had some interesting runs this week. So I fought Guillotina. This is a mechanic that gets introduced to you, I think, the first time you beat the graveyard path in Act 1. So for anyone that isn't playing with us, you kind of clear out the sewers and the caves path of Act 1. If I remember correctly.
Okay, that's where I'm up to at the moment, is the graveyard area.
Okay. If maybe you can correct me here if I'm wrong. Basically, when you finish the sewers and caves area, they say, hey, all right, now you can go do the other path, which is the like the scrapyard and the graveyard.
Yeah, the junkyard.
Junkyard.
Yes, and the graveyard.
And when you beat that whole path, the game is basically like, hey, that's great. Now you can do Act 2. Also, Guillotina is coming, and she's going to eat your cats. I was like, okay, cool. And there's a timer in your house view that says 7 days until the guillotine comes here. And the game says, hey, this is where your retired cats come in handy. Only retired cats can fight guillotine. I was like, oh,
Great.
okay, that's interesting. I've got a bunch of really solid retired cats right now. They can just fight. No big deal. I did fight her, and it's basically a fairly straightforward fight. I had like a tank, a fighter, a healer, and a hunter that were all in really good shape, and they were all kind of fairly strong because they had finished a run, so they're typically in fairly good shape. Really, the only thing that Guillotina did, at the very least, when I ran into her for this first time, was just kind of ate my cats, but not in the way that like the daddy shark does in the sewers. Your cat that gets eaten, when it's their turn, they can punch Guillotina from the inside out, and after like one or two punches, she just spits them out and does some damage. So like, it was interesting because like, it seemed to be this big fight that was coming up, and for once in this game, it wasn't that big of a deal. I'm sure the boss will probably get harder and harder every time you fight them, but I was kind of impressed that the first time you fight them wasn't really that nasty. Beating Guillotine the first time dropped a cube of meat, which I thought was really interesting because I've been wondering, hey, where do you get that cube of meat that clearly goes into that cube-shaped hole in the wall of meat at the end of the caves? So when that dropped, I was like, well, perfect. Let's go do a run to the caves. And this was the moment that I felt like my cat breeding stuff was finally paying off, because the cats that I was gathering from my house to send off into this run finally seemed like they started in a much better place than they have before. So their stats were higher. They had some solid passives.
You'll get them better.
Yeah, like that kind of the floor that I'm starting with has raised up a little bit, and that feels really good. I'm also like 20 hours into the game, which feels fairly long for a lot of that stuff. But I had this moment of like, okay, maybe this is kind of finally paying off here. I did try, so I had this run. I set up a group. I took the cube of meat with me, which we'll talk about here in a second. I took the new druid collar with me, which is basically like, it's your familiar class. So you start a battle, it spawns a familiar. In my case, it was a crow, and your familiar is controllable. And a lot of the skills that my druid got were about healing and buffing that familiar. Sometimes other party members, often not a lot, but I didn't really have anything else beyond that. So it's one of those things like I got with the necromancer. Did I get a bad roll of the skills and abilities that I have that didn't really synergize? Is that kind of just all the druid is? I don't really know, because I don't know what I don't know the majority of the time with Mewgenics. So on my cube of meat run, it is an equipable item that you need to have on one of your cats and carry with you all the way through the game, all the way to the end of the caves past the boss.
Here's my question though: is can you equip her on your cat and then put it in your backpack the second you get in there in case you lose that cat?
Not that I could tell. Also, it has like maybe a little bit of a twist on it. The
A twist in a roguelike by
I
Ed
know.
McMillan?
I know you're shocked. It has some buffs, so it makes sense to have the cat that has it equipped keep it equipped. but also it has the downside of every unit, the wording here is important, every unit that loses their health explodes into meat. Which is fine for the enemies. That is not fine for your cats. So I did lose a cat on this run because they got knocked down and immediately just turn into a fine mist. Thankfully, it was not the cat that had the cube of meat on it. But I was able to get a collarless cat, a couple fights later after an event. Things were fine. I got all the way to the end of that run. I get past the spider boss and everything. I have like one of the easiest spider boss fights of my entire last 2 months. And I go to put the cube of meat in the wall, and the wall disappears, and the game said, "Great job, you did it. Let's go back home." And I get nothing. Which was not surprising, but still frustrating until I went to go look it up. I don't like looking stuff up in the wiki while playing this stuff because that's kind of like counter to how I want to play this stuff. And it was basically like, that's the first of like 3 steps to unlock a new area. You have to go basically do a similar thing in the second chapter, and then you need to do a sort of similar but different thing in another area of the game. It's like, okay, well that's fine. It's clearly like a long-term goal, but I wish that there was just a little bit of like, you did this, but you can tell there's another wall like this in a different area or something. Like anything other than, thanks sucker, see you later, bye.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit, again, not unexpected, but a little bit frustrating. So I felt largely good about my runs that I had this week. I upgraded some of my my NPCs. I had a real like rich moment at the very end of me playing this game where the woman who runs the like pet food store, I give her so when you beat Guillotina, the retired cats that beat Guillotina are then given like a little flame on their head, and the game says, okay, for real, they can't do anything anymore. They definitely can't go into runs because they're retired. They can't fight Guillotina again because they already have. Now, if you're not using them for cat breeding, they're really done for real. So I donated all of those to whatever her name is at the place, and she thanks me and then calls me a Nazi. And I was like, that's okay. This is the end of my time with Mewgenics, and that's really rich coming from the game that has these voice actors in it, man. You just... the most tone-deaf thing possible. So, like, it was the most, like, chef's kiss end to me playing Mewgenics of, like, yep, there it is, man. The scientists have a hell of a discussion and a hell of a decision to make next week. Thankfully, that's not either of our problems. But I do not envy them, the scientists of the future, for having to come up with a decision around this game on our list.
Yep. It's going to be difficult, to say the least.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's it for Mewgenics. Let that game ride off into the sunset where it belongs. And also launch itself into the sun. We will be back next week. The scientists will be back next week. It's clearly not us.
Thank you.
Scientists that sound like us, probably due to scientific technology. And they'll talk about the kind of final decisions on this game and answer the big question of the month and all that stuff. They'll also be talking about the next game that we'll play. So tune in for that one. We'll see you all next run. Bye.
Bye.